Good morning, Wall Street winners. It is Monday, March 31st, and there is very little good news in the market this morning. We are just on pins and needles waiting until Liberation Day on April 1st. Sorry, April 2nd on Wednesday. And the markets are just waiting, taking a back seat, probably a lot of selling off going on. Not probably, there is a lot of selling off going on. So there's a great deal of negativity. And the good news about negativity is it can shift quickly to positivity. So there is a potential for a bit of a bump or possibly a big spike this week after we learn more about what's going on from the president and his administration. But right now, it's looking like a bit of a bloodbath. If we take a look at the markets and we take a look at the futures, you can see that the Dow is off almost 0.7%. The S&P down more than a percent, 1.07, and the Nasdaq is off 1.5 right now. So it's going to be a very weak start to this week. And that's just something that we're going to have to be anticipating. And if you were listening to the videos from the last couple of weeks and you'd bought some put options on the greater indexes, you're probably doing quite well with those put indexes. Um, and as it continues to dive, if you think that there's a potential for a bit of a turnaround, then you might look at a call out maybe until the second or third week of April when things kind of get sorted out. And when we start hearing from the big financials after, I think it's April 11th, when we'll start to hear from some of the bigger financial names. And then on the 14th, we'll hear from the likes, I believe Goldman comes out on the 14th. And so we'll start to hear from JP Morgan first, and then we'll get Morgan Stanley and Goldman and many of the regional banks to follow. You can see the VIX is up in the mid 20s. So it started to climb. I would have thought we would have already been there and it would have been closer to the high 20s or low 30s. But that's where we are right now. If you look at health and retail, it's just getting clobbered. So again, it's an opportune time to look at an entry for the long term, but for a short term play, you could get battered significantly in this. The one area that may hold its own is utilities. Con Ed's kind of holding its own. Vistra's way down in the pre market. That's a really interesting buy, but that's kind of been a data center utility buy where when the AI hype was more prominent, and that was the narrative, then Vistra, one of the utilities that was probably going to supply power to these new data centers in the Texas area, took a big bump and went up. You can see oil's not doing so bad this morning. Crude is up at 69.56, so it's getting closer to 70 a barrel. We'll see whether by the end of this week it crosses the $70 a barrel kind of threshold. If it does, there's a lot of possibility that it continues up towards 75. We'll have to wait and see that. You see tech is just getting hammered um, almost across the board. There's very, very little green on the screen. QQQ closed at, let's just say 469 because it's pretty close to that. It's down 720 in the pre-market. The Vanguard Information Technology Index down almost 11. Even the big names like Microsoft, which was down close to 12 on Friday, is down 6.25 this morning in the pre-market. ARM looking like it's going to get down into the low hundreds. It might even get back into the 90s, which is just a crazy price for that stock with the amount of forward momentum and positivity that has been around that. Lam Research not fallen as much as some of the others, but down into the low 70s. It could get into the 60s. Broadcom, which was a $240 stock a month, maybe a month and a half ago, is now looking like it's going to be in the low 160s. Amazon is cheap, dropping 9 on Friday and 4.5 today. You got Tesla taking a big dive, and it's kind of despite the fact that Tesla has bucked the curve or really bucked the trend amongst US automakers, being that it manufactures the majority of its products in the US, but it's down 16, just getting pulled with the regular market. And then you've got Meta. I mean, Meta down 25 on Friday to 476, 477, off another 12 or 13 today, one of its lowest points in the last, I'm going to say at least 3, maybe 6 months. Look at the chart. If you look at the last 6 months, yeah, it's down to 6 month lows here. Where it's had remarkable earnings and a good future forecast. So I think a long-term call on that. I bought a long-term call on Meta on Friday and think that that'll be beneficial. We just need to get through, for the most part, the end of Wednesday this week. That's going to be your super, the super big day. You've got the SPX, which is a new index that I've added that represents the S&P 500. Um, it's down, always was down 112. It doesn't show a pre-market number. You've got Apollo off another $4 this morning, so down to the low 130s. And then you've got some of the other big names. JP Morgan off 5 Friday, off 4.5 at the open today, or potentially at the open. We've got an hour and 10 minutes to go, 12 minutes. Morgan Stanley down into the low 110, one teens level. A very attractive price going into earnings. And then Goldman dropping again. I mean, it was down 16 on Friday and now down 12 going into the open this morning. So I wouldn't probably be I'd be hesitant right now with where the market is to buy more puts. But if I was going to buy a put, it would be a very short term put, like for the week. We've got jobs numbers coming out on Friday. We've obviously got Liberation Day, which is tariff announcements on Wednesday. And both of those will be very important to what the market does. So we'll be paying attention to those. We'll try to put out some unique videos around Wednesday's tariff day as we learn more, and then we'll touch base more than once, but we'll definitely connect again before Friday on the jobs report. So stay risk averse, keep your capital in cash or money market, and protect any downside if you are holding stocks with some puts that you can place against major indices. And hopefully we'll see this start to turn around this week. Good luck in your trades. And if you're